Yo, what's up, Taurus? Welcome to your monthly forecast for the month of January 2018. Happy New Year, Taurus. We're starting off 2018 with some important celestial events. We've got two full moons this month. We've got one on the first of the month and one on the last of the month. So one on the first day of the month, one on the last day of the month. It's pretty interesting. And the first one is just a regular full moon. The second one is actually a full moon total lunar eclipse, and that's happening on the last day of January. It's a pretty substantial event. And then we have Uranus, which is finally coming out of its retrograde. It's been retrograding since August 3rd, 2017. And Uranus is going to proceed forward now on January 2nd. But the sun is going to be in an area for you, Taurus, throughout the month of January 2018 that has to do with faraway places, foreign cultures, that has to do with spirituality. So the three things I just mentioned might be themes in your life throughout the month of January 2018. Now, faraway places is a pretty specific thing. So, obviously not all Taurus are going to have faraway places somehow factoring into your lives throughout the month of January 2018. But yes, some of you might. Others of you might be more involved with a foreign culture of some sort, or potentially you're involved with someone who's from a cultural background that's different from yours. Others of you are going to have, spiritual experiences. Or you're going to be more involved with a spiritual subject or more interested in a spiritual subject throughout the month of January 2018. Then the sun's going to shift on January 19th, and it's going to move into an area that has to do with your career. So you better get ready to put your professional hat on, because where the sun is going to be for the first 3 weeks of January, it's an adventurous place, and it's a freedom-seeking place. And then the sun is going to shift on January 19th, and then you're going to be busy with your career. So you're going to have more interactions with your bosses, your coworkers, your clients. And the sun at the end of the month, it's going to be in an area that has to do with important men in your life. But those are the main themes for you, Taurus, at the month of January 2018. Now I'm going to talk about some more specific major astrological events that are set to occur this month and what they mean for you. Right off the bat on January 1st, there's a full moon in an area that has to do with communication in your life, Taurus. So this is going to resonate in a multitude of different ways for different Tauruses. Following the full moon on January 1st, some Taurus may have an important message that they need to get across. Other Tauruses, this might precipitate as, you might be going on a lot of short distance trips or at a higher frequency of short distance trips following January 1st. Other Taurus potentially going to be learning something. A select few of you might be teaching something following January 1st. Others of you, not many of you are involved in film, TV, radio, music, media. But if you are, potentially you could see a development in any of the areas that I just mentioned following the full moon on January 1st. Others of you are going to be interacting with your siblings more following the full moon on January 1st. And lastly, if you're interested in buying a car, potentially some of you might be thinking about car shopping. It's not definite. Once again, that's another really specific thing, but look out for that following January 1st. On January 2nd, Uranus finally starts to move forward. It's been retrograding since August 3rd, 2017, so it's quite some time. We're looking at like half a year long retrograde right there. And it was retrograding in this area for you, Taurus, that has to do with things that are private and hidden. It has to do with behind the scenes. It has to do with secrets in your life, potentially. So I'm not saying all of you Taurus have some secrets in your life, but yeah, maybe some of you do. Uranus's indication or Uranus's position in the sky suggests that potentially some of you do. Now, with Uranus moving forward in this area, this is an area that has to do with letting go too. So, this previous retrograde cycle for some of you potentially was about contemplating the letting go of a certain aspect of your life. What aspect of your life, for some of you Taurus, have you been thinking about? Do I need to let go of this situation and get something new? Well, now that Uranus is moving forward again on January 2nd, you're probably ready to make a decision about this. Do I let go of this? Do I stick with it? What do I want to do? So you might make up your mind following January 2nd. Also, for this particular aspect, for other you Tauruses, potentially if you were working on something behind the scenes for the past year and a half, you might be ready to launch it now. On January 8th, Venus is positively aspecting Jupiter. And this has to do, like I said, here's another specific example. Some of you have the opportunity to go somewhere far away with a love interest potentially, and that's a pretty specific thing. Not all Tauruses are going to experience something like that following January 8th. Some of you may. Others of you, you might be attracted to somebody who's in a faraway place, and I'm talking about pretty big distances, so potentially you have a love interest that lives in another state or another country potentially, and that's another really specific example. Other Tauruses, potentially, this could be the indication of a soulmate. So if someone isn't, in a physical distance that's far away from you, potentially some of you might be in love with your soulmate. Potentially, if you're coupled up, you might be with your soulmate potentially. And this is going to be highlighted on January 8th or right around this time. Other Tauruses, you might be interested in someone who's from a cultural background that's different from yours. So especially if you're a single Taurus, maybe you want to look for someone who's from a cultural background that's different from yours. Maybe you want to look for somebody who's a spiritual figure. Maybe there is somebody who you're interested in who's from a faraway place. And this aspect between Venus and Jupiter on January 8th implies that this is a great connection. On January 13th, Venus makes more of a difficult aspect to Uranus, and this might be because some of you have a secret attraction for somebody, and potentially you have to keep it secret for some reason. So who knows, maybe you're already with somebody. Is that why it's difficult? Is that why there's somewhat of a caveat here on January 13th? So this suggests secret attraction, and Uranus is the planet of the unexpected. So, potentially something unexpected coming up right around January 13th. I'm not saying that it's definite, but, this is Uranus in your area of secrets. It's making an aspect to Venus, which is, has to do with love. And if this doesn't have to do with love, then potentially some of you might be working on something creative behind the scenes. Once again, Venus is an area that has to do with faraway places, foreign cultures, and spirituality. So somehow the three things that I just mentioned might be factoring into right around January 13th somehow for some of you. On January 16th, there's a new moon in the area that has to do with faraway places, foreign cultures, and spirituality. For you, it does. So, like I said, it's a pretty specific thing for Tauruses to be going somewhere far away, but with all this stuff that's indicating that you are going somewhere far away, some of you definitely are. I'm not saying all of you are, and if you aren't, maybe you should start booking a trip now, because the way new moon works is it's going to hit on January 16th, and the 6 months that follow January 16th, some of you Taurus might be jet setting to a distant location. So, if you haven't taken a trip abroad in a long time, or maybe even ever, maybe you should do it, Taurus. Maybe you should go somewhere far away, or potentially just go somewhere far, maybe even a state or a country that's close by. So just do something a little bit more adventurous, Taurus. And once again, this area has to do with spirituality. So the 6 months that follow January 16th, something new about a spiritual subject potentially is influencing in your life. January 18th, Mars is positively aspecting Chiron. This implies, for you, especially you single Taurus, January 18th is a great day for you to maybe reach out to somebody who you're interested on social media. If you're attracted to somebody on social media or on the internet somehow, this might be you connecting with them. The presence of Chiron is going to make you probably feel a little bit uncertain or skeptical, but that's just Chiron's influence. I wouldn't take that too seriously. Chiron has the tendency for us to, it basically touches on your sensitivities. So, whatever sensitivity or your skepticism you're feeling on January 18th about someone who you're connecting with for love or for relationship on the internet, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Chiron has the tendency to make you feel a little bit uncertain, but that's just the influence. And once it passes, you'll feel better. And, even if you're not really that into online dating, this might be a day where you can meet someone really special for a relationship. On January 24th, Mercury is aligning with Pluto, and both planets are aligning in that area that has to do with faraway places for you, foreign cultures, spirituality. Once again, here we go. What is so important about a faraway place in your life throughout the month of January 2018, Taurus? Mercury's talk and thought. Potentially you're thinking about this. Potentially you're having a conversation with somebody who's in a distant location. Potentially you're having a conversation with someone who's from a cultural background that's different from yours. Potentially, this is a spiritual conversation that's taking place right around January 24th, Taurus. Some of you might be having spiritual conversations, and Pluto is indicating that this could be pretty deep. Like whatever this is pretty substantial, it's pretty profound. It might even be sort of intense for some of you. On January 28th, Mercury is aspecting Uranus. So previously, Venus made this aspect to Uranus. Now Mercury is taking its turn to make this aspect to Venus on January 28th. This might have to do with something about a secret in your life. On January 31st, there's a full moon, total lunar eclipse, and this one has to do with a change in your home life situation. So a lot of times lunar eclipses have to do with breaking away. I'm not saying all Taurus are going to be breaking away from an existing home life situation, but some of you may. Others of you, there's something really special happening, and it's going to resonate in a multitude of different ways. Some sort of change is happening in your home life, and potentially could be a positive change for some of you. So, just because it's a lunar eclipse doesn't mean it's going to be a breaking away for all of you. Some of you definitely, yes. Others of you might see some sort of positive development regarding your home life or where you live. But I think that's all I have for you this month, Taurus. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe, share, and like, and I'll see you next month.